What Eddie Howe done was he picked up the Bruno Guimaraes bat and smacked Alexander Isak across the head with it.
Geordie Journo's back outside the Newcastle United Media Centre. First time in a while, Jordan.
That's been a long time.
Back in business. Newcastle United, the eve of the Premier League season. And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
I tell you, you've got new season fever. I can see it and feel it.
I'm not fatigued by the past month that has been, I guess, draining for everyone. And yeah, that's what Eddie Howe's press conference was dominated by once again, as expected. Alexander Isak, all the talk about him. This video is not about Alexander Isak. Really. No. It's about Newcastle United. That's what matters. Aston Villa tomorrow. Bit of news on the transfer front as well. We'll split this video into two parts as we usually do. After the ad break, we'll be providing some Newcastle United transfer news, update from Eddie Howe, and some news from ourselves as well. So, yes. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to start
You brought the structure about these videos because it was just me and Liam, we were out of the shot, whereas with you it's two parts and that's the way to do it.
Okay.
So yes, what we're starting on, we're starting Alexander Isak service, we'll pay it lip service, as we say, because realistically it wasn't anything.
Well, I'll say, you said off camera, I didn't want to talk about that, man. It's about Newcastle.
Yeah, it's just the fact that there's no updates, and realistically, by him doing what he's doing, it's just taking away the focus from what really matters, and that's Newcastle United open up a new Premier League season tomorrow at Aston Villa, and that's what I want to focus on. But yeah, paying the Alexander Isak thing lip service realistically is not really an update.
Eddie Howe said that.
Still training by himself. Without saying it again, is quite clearly refusing to play because of an attempt to force a move to Liverpool. We know that. So we'll move on from it.
Yeah, all I will say on the Isak stuff, Eddie Howe answering questions about him, he spoke about his relationship with Alexander Isak. He was speaking in the past tense. He obviously he's not playing an active role in the Isak situation, is what he wanted to stress. He said he's had a good relationship with Alexander Isak. His focus though has been on transfers, which we'll get on to, and has been getting his side ready for Aston Villa, and we expect Anthony Gordon, despite that ankle issue in the Salah Cup game, going to be fine, going to start the line, because he said no injuries except Joe Willock.
Yeah, which that's why the Isak. I said I'm not going to talk about that. Why the Isak situation is so frustrating, because Newcastle heading into the first game of the season, having to put a winger into a striker role. I know Anthony Gordon's played there before, but he's not a striker.
No.
And having to put him in that position is because of the actions of one man, and that's why his actions are selfish and has derailed Newcastle United's pre-season. Starting to get it now.
The fire's lit now.
I just still don't like it. I don't like that we're going into a new season. You've got a player there who's contracted for another 3 years on good money and is refusing to play because he wants to go elsewhere. It stinks to the high heaven, but I'm going to move on now. And Anthony Gordon, in many ways, he can do a job up there. He makes good runs. He's a very different type of striker, but he does occupy defenders. He's not Alexander Isak, not many people are, but yeah. Anthony Gordon, Willa Sula, there's only one choice there, where it's Willa Sula. We spoke really highly of him before. When we've seen him in spells last year, we liked a lot about him. His attributes, he's being sort of quick, strong, relatively good in the air. But when he's had that consistent run in pre-season, he hasn't grasped his opportunity.
Right.
And obviously, I know you've been away.
So yeah, I haven't seen pre-season, so I was interested to know your thoughts on Willa Sula, because I would have said back at Celtic, it's a big pre-season for Willa Sula to take that opportunity in Alexander Isak's absence, and played against Celtic. He was involved, he was lively, didn't really take his chances in front of goal, or didn't at all, and then sounds like he hasn't really kicked on.
Very much the same. He got a good run, started two of the games in Asia, but I say just didn't grasp his opportunity. It wasn't through lack of effort or lack of hard work. You could see he was a player that was trying and willing, but just unfortunately just didn't quite show what he needed to show to be in the conversation. So when there's no Alexander Isak, Willa Sula still needing development, that leaves Anthony Gordon, because which will come on, and Newcastle United are still without a established striker.
So how's your team looking for tomorrow? Based on what Eddie Howe's saying, everyone's fit, Alexander Isak's unavailable, and Joe Willock's unavailable. So how are you lining up at Villa Park tomorrow?
Yeah, so obviously Malik Chow's been confirmed this week, trained Wednesday, Thursday. We'll train today. Eddie Howe confirmed he'll be in the squad. I don't think he'll start the game. Obviously, I think it's quite obvious in that respect. I don't state the obvious by saying that. Be on the bench. Fabian Schär and Dan Burn as your centre backs. I think because of Lewis Hall and Sven Botman only getting 45 minutes each in the Cellar weekend last week, I think that effectively rules them out of start 11 place as well. So I think it'll be Trippier as your right back, Livramento as your left back.
Okay.
The midfield 3. Again, we'll come on to maybe one player that's going to be signed but won't be signed in time for Aston Villa. But the midfield 3 picks itself. Lewis Miley actually done really well last week in the Cellar game that he played. Really flashes of the old Lewis Miley that would sort of seem were quite positive in possession. So that was the best game I'd seen from him. But again, when you've got Bruno, Sandro Tonali and Joe Linton, that picks itself. I think the only really decision that Eddie Howe has to make, I think it'll be Harvey Barnes on the left, Anthony Gordon through the middle, and is it Anthony Elanga or Jacob Murphy?
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
And I think because of the front 3 that was lined up against Atletico Madrid last week, and it was Anthony Elanga in that front line alongside Barnes and Gordon, I do wonder if that's a hint at Elanga getting the nod tomorrow.
Okay. So no Harrison Ashby in midfield. I'd heard good things about him.
You know what, I actually in my little notes I done for questions or whatever, very bottom of the pile today for the questions, all the Isak stuff had essentially been asked by the time it got to me, but I had a question there on Harrison Ashby. 2 years into his 2.5 years into his cast career, two loans, what's the future for him? But it didn't quite feel like the right time to ask that today, but
maybe later.
Yes, maybe when there is actually nothing to talk about.
Yeah, which is never the case at Newcastle United. I probably agree. I think that's how Newcastle line up. Nick Pope in goal as well. That was another question asked by Eddie Howe as he made a decision on his goalkeeper. And he goes, I think we will play a goalkeeper. I think I do know who it's going to be. So yeah, humorous answer from Eddie. But yeah, you asked a question about the sort of media noise surrounding Isak. Shutting that out. Eddie Howe's made that clear. That's basically what he's done. And then I asked him about Newcastle's transfer policy this summer has all been about signing players who want to play for the club, who have passion, desire, want to be involved in the squad, which has been the complete opposite of Alexander Isak this summer. And I just said, is it really more important that your players already there have that mentality? And I think Unprovoked was really telling his answer. Name check Bruno Guimaraes. He said he epitomises what it means to play for Newcastle United. He couldn't wait to wear that black and white shirt. Every player we've brought into the club, Alexander Isak included, was desperate to play for the club, but Bruno has been so consistent with that ever since he first joined the club, and he is the sort of example. He epitomises what it means to play for Newcastle United, which I thought was quite a powerful response from a fairly nothing question from myself.
What Eddie Howe done was he picked up the Bruno Guimaraes bat and smacked Alexander Isak across the head with it. Because it is right though, that's exactly who you should be. Be more like Bruno, not like Isak.
Yeah.
That's the advice I would have for anyone. Because there was talk around Bruno's future 12 months ago, 18 months ago, and what did he do? He signed a new contract and he's made captain. That's doubling down on wanting to be here.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
You're not agreeing with that?
I mean, you're never going to turn down a captaincy and a pay rise.
No, but still though, didn't have to.
No, he did.
If he's got ambitions to go elsewhere, Alexander Isak this summer probably had an opportunity to take another.
Bruno's never down tools. I'll give him
exactly.
That. He's always just committed, and we spoke about Kieran Trippier in the last video. These are your captains. These are your leaders, and you just see Bruno after the Carabao Cup, after the Champions League qualification. He cares so much about this club. He is a Geordie in every sense of the word, except he's not from here. He's a adopted Geordie. So great example and a great captain for Newcastle United. And that's why, regardless of what happens with Bruno in his career, unless he does an Isak, which
he never will.
Don't think he will, he'll always be remembered really fondly by Newcastle fans.
Of course he will. I mean, it's not just the lifting the trophy for me, it's everything else. I think obviously that is like the cherry on the top in terms of being the first captain in a lot of years to win a trophy. But just his conduct and the way he sort of bought into the culture, he just loves the football club, the ultimate professional, and I'm glad Eddie Howe recognised that in the question that you asked, because it did indirectly feel like a bit of a beaten down Alexander Isak, and that's how I feel about the situation. Is you've got your captain there, who, as I say, is the model pro. Said before about the captaincy, it was still a choice to take it. Alexander Isak probably had a choice this summer to take the number 9 shirt.
Yeah.
Turned that down because he wants to leave. Bruno, choice, took the captaincy, signed a new contract, stayed, be more like Bruno.
Yes, and Eddie Howe said he wants his new signings to be like Bruno, and that will get us on to what we'll talk about in second half of this video. And you spoke about that number 9 shirt as well, left vacant. Could we see a number 9 before September 1st? So on that note, we'll have an advert break. Here are some words from our sponsors. Comply IT Limited. Worrying about disposing of your old IT equipment? Don't be. Comply IT handle everything. Secure collection, detailed tracking, and certified data destruction. That's Comply IT Limited. Four Rivers Financial Planning offer holistic financial advice for all stages of life, ensuring your plan remains robust and adaptable in the ever-changing world we live in. So those were words from our sponsors, words from myself, I guess, which you and Liam have had a lot of fun with. I can't put a tweet out, by the way, without someone saying, don't be, these days. I must say, it wasn't any Mickey taking on our behalf of you, Dom. We're all friends here, but I don't take it personally.
No, it's not.
It's nice to have a catchphrase.
It's because we'd miss you so much that we just really need to mention it every time you're on the video.
I know, yeah. That was my commitment, flying in to do those.
It was, I know, Your ass is furious.
Furious, your honeymoon's being ruined? Don't be.
Yeah, you see, there it is.
No. But yes, back on serious matters and transfers. Eddie Howe was asked about transfers a little bit. We've got a bit on the transfer front. Obviously, it's well documented. Jacob Ramsey from Aston Villa, as it happens, coming into the football club, arrived for his medical. He's probably in that building over there right now. But will he be involved against Aston Villa, against his former club, soon-to-be former club, this weekend?
No, he won't be involved.
Those were Eddie Howe's words as well.
Yeah, he was reluctant to talk about Jacob Ramsey, obviously, because he's not technically signed yet.
But effectively.
But if Newcastle were to register Jacob Ramsey by 12 PM today, I guess the video will probably be out after that, but by 12 PM Friday, registering with the Premier League, he would be available for Aston Villa, but the deal won't be finalised in that before then. Medical's still undergoing, finalising paperwork, etc. I do wonder from an Aston Villa perspective, would you just hold off on selling Jacob Ramsey?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? I think there's probably a bit of an agreement there between two clubs where it's like, yeah, you can sign him now, but he's not playing against us on Saturday.
No, exactly.
So yeah, his likely debut will be against that hot affair against Liverpool in just over a week's time now. Yeah,
a week on Monday night football under the lights, St James's Park. Well, still summer, so probably not under the lights. Maybe lights towards there.
But I like the sign of Jacob Ramsey. I think he's an upgrade on Sean Longstaff. I think he's an upgrade on Joe Willock. I think he's very much like a Joe Willock, but I think is more defensively sort of minded as well. I think from what I've seen, makes better decisions in the final third as well. So I like the signing.
Better finisher.
Yeah. No, he hasn't scored as many goals as what he probably should have.
But he scored more than Joe Willock. And people question his output and his injury record. He played 45 games last season. He started 25. It's like he's shown signs last season. He scored in the Champions League. Scored 4 goals last season. I think that he raises the levels. He's not a guaranteed starter for Newcastle United by any means, and £39 million is a lot of money to pay for someone who doesn't improve your starting 11. But to raise the standard of the squad as a whole, to weaken Aston Villa as well, a direct rival, and to improve on a Sean Longstaff, as you say, improve on a Joe Willock, which I think he does. I don't think he's a massive improvement on those two players, but I think he's a player who, at 24 as well, can only improve under Eddie Howe potentially as well. So with versatility, can play out on the left, can play across the midfield as well. I think it's a smart piece of business, and it's good to see Newcastle, who just couldn't make a signing for a month, actually acting quickly. Business is getting done. Malik Chow, that was done quite quickly. Jacob Ramsey's been done quite quickly. Johan Wissa as well, another striker, potentially moving forward. I mean, that hasn't been done quickly by any means. I think you go back a month, they was still in talks, but that again, momentum, things moving forward, and 2 weeks left, just over 2 weeks left of the transfer window. What we were saying a month ago, we don't see many signings before.
So when we were still outside Celtic, it was like, I sort of felt like end of the world stuff, where it was like no movement on the transfer window. But to be fair, for all the external sort of panic since then, Newcastle United have sort of cracked on, if you like, and
I'm a lot more confident now.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think in terms of further signings, Eddie Howe last week was asked about how many signings he'd want. This was before obviously Malik Chow arrived and Jacob Ramsey arrived, and he wouldn't put a number on how many signings he wanted. But after say getting Malik Chow for the door, Ramsey to join Johan Wissa, which we'll come on to, he said he wants 1 or 2 more, which I think him committing to a number now suggests that he is confident that they're in a position where they don't have too much left to do, when weeks ago it looked like they had a lot to do.
Definitely, and Eddie Howe saying today, he's basically saying without saying, any incoming striker, the next striker, Johan Wissa, will just put that name out there because he's the furthest along, is more of a replacement for Callum Wilson than an Alexander Isak. Eddie Howe said today that irrespective of Alexander Isak's situation, Newcastle needed a striker, and then depending on what happens with Alexander Isak, potentially another one as well. So we're looking at 1 striker, I'd say almost certain, and then 2 potentially. And again, they've missed targets. Eddie Howe recognised that, the likes of Hugo Ekitike, Benjamin Sesko, but it's a small market, but I think they're going to explore it in addition to bringing in Johan Wissa.
Yeah, so I mean, if you sign a Benjamin Sesko or Hugo Ekitike, Alexander Isak is not at the football club as we speak. He would have been gone. That's why I think Liverpool's, although they might still end up with Alexander Isak, shot themselves in the foot by going for a Hugo Ekitike deal. Maybe it's end up with both. You haven't shot yourself in the foot, but the reason for the delay is because Newcastle went for Hugo Ekitike, Liverpool swooped in, and now Liverpool are waiting on the Isak decision.
Great power play from Liverpool. Brilliant. Shot themselves in the foot, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's going to take a British record transfer fee for Alexander Isak to leave the football club, and to be honest, I think that's where things are moving slightly.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, as I said, I stand by it now. I think Alexander has to go.
Yeah.
I don't think you can keep him, but I see a scenario where he does stay, and I'd still see a scenario where, as much as there's a lot of anger and frustration now, I do see a scenario where he would, as much as he is by the sounds of refusing to do that, would reintegrate back in the group at some point. It won't be this month, it would be after, if he's still a Newcastle player on September 2nd after the window closes. I think you probably will see the player come back into the group unless he sticks with his guns, but realistically from his point of view it makes absolutely zero sense if he was to still be here why he wouldn't play. I know we've spoken about a World Cup, etc., but you still want to be playing, you've still got the opportunity to play in the best competition in Europe in terms of Champions League, so from that respect it would make no sense for Isak to sort of distance himself out if he's still here. But in terms of the Wissa signing, Liverpool fans might be watching this, have been watching a lot of our videos over the over the summer. It doesn't when Newcastle United, if they sign Johan Wissa, which I think there's still a few moving parts, I think the situation to explain it is Dango Ouattara. Brentford have moved for him from Bournemouth, £42.5 million fee agreed. So once that's signed off, the suggestion is that they will greenlight Johan Wissa's exit, where Newcastle, as we understand, have lined up a deal. The player wants to come. They've been in talks with Brentford for a good month now, I think it is. But even if or when Wissa comes to the football club, it doesn't really change Alexander Isak's situation. Again, there's been suggestions that, you sign Wissa and then Newcastle go with him and Gordon and let Isak go until let him go, and then Newcastle until January go with those 2 players. That makes zero sense from a Newcastle's perspective.
No.
Unless
they're back to square one in January when he's at the African Cup of Nations.
Exactly. That for me, I think, as much as that is a potential scenario, I think it doesn't make any sense at all why you would essentially leave yourselves light.
I don't think that's Newcastle's plan, in fairness. But
that has been suggested.
Yeah, it was suggested to Eddie Howe today, wasn't it? And Eddie Howe was just like, look, I'll deal with the hand I'm dealt, basically. And the Isak situation, he did hint that there could be a positive resolution to that situation in terms of Alexander Isak playing for the football club again. He said all doors are open, is what he said, but couldn't guarantee when or if he'd play for the club again, which again is the understanding of everyone, really. So. Yeah, I think the Johan Wissa deal happens quite soon, I'd imagine.
I think so.
Before the weekend, no. But I think we'll be seeing a Johan Wissa, will he be the new number 9, and a Jacob Ramsey in time for the Liverpool game.
Yes, hopefully. And then I say there've been a lot of delay in signings, but if you were to have that business done in time for the first home game of the season, it's probably the best case scenario you could have had, obviously apart from Aston Villa, because I mean a few weeks ago it didn't look like Newcastle were going to have any players through the door. So as I say, they've eventually cracked on, and to have players through the door in time for that first home game, I think would be the next best thing after not being able to do it last month and earlier this month.
On paper, if these signings do indeed happen, have Newcastle actually had a very good transfer window? Ignore the Isak stuff, because nothing's happened there. He hasn't left the club or anything like that. You go, what needed strengthening? They needed a goalkeeper. Okay, they've missed out on targets. They needed a striker. They needed a right winger. And they needed a midfielder.
Okay.
Boxes ticked.
No, I think they've levelled out the squad in many ways.
Yeah.
I think
that I would say they haven't necessarily massively improved the starting 11. That's
that might be the argument we're having in a couple of months' time, depending on how the season goes, where they haven't really signed starters,
game changers.
I think they've signed.
Alanga's probably the closest, isn't he?
But I mean, we spoke about Jacob Murphy. I mean, I've always said I think Jacob Murphy can be improved on, but looking at his assists and goals last year, taking him out of the team and it's pressures on Anthony Alanga to fulfil that, and if he doesn't, then you've essentially weakened it maybe.
Yeah, he has to have his best ever season, Anthony Alanga, in order to just maintain the status quo of what Jacob Murphy gave last season.
That's how I'd say Alanga and Jacob Ramsey, £95 million on two players that at this stage in the future I think have got real potential to be proper starters. But at this moment in time, they don't immediately strengthen the team, in my opinion. Say that strengthens the squad. I hope this makes sense, where they've got a much better squad.
Yeah. Because
if someone drops out, there's not really a huge drop off, I would say.
Yeah. It's lessons learned from the last Champions League season, where they didn't really. The squad just wasn't up to scratch in terms of Champions League calibre. Once you scratch the surface, once you got a few injuries, and the injuries piled up, and Newcastle's season suffered and derailed at one stage, really.
Maybe it's a deliberate ploy by Eddie Howe to sort of level up the squad, because as much sort of early days of the PIF ownership, they went big early and they signed like your crown jewels like Isak, Bruno, Botman, Gordon. So you've got those players who are in like a top bracket, and then the players below that are like middle to low bracket. Whereas now, sort of leveling out the squad, you've got. I don't know, that's what it's all about. That's one criticism of Newcastle. They haven't had a squad. Yeah, they haven't had one, and when players like that have dropped out and they've lost crown jewel players, they've suffered really badly for it. Where, I mean, you look at what Aston Villa have done in many ways. That's like I think Newcastle have got a better start 11 than Aston Villa, but Aston Villa have got a far better squad and are more capable of competing on multiple fronts, which they did last year. Aston Villa had to finish outside the Champions League places on goal difference and get to the quarter-finals of the Champions League. I think it's a fantastic
semi-finals of the FA Cup as well, didn't it?
Semi-finals of the FA Cup,
they really went late in a few competitions and went right to the wire in terms of Champions League. They would probably feel hard done by not to have qualified for the Champions League as well, but their loss is Newcastle United's game. And I think you can. There's a lot of comparisons to make between Newcastle and Villa, which I guess is a talking point because they're playing each other this weekend. And you make a good point. The Villa's squad has always been stronger, I think, than Newcastle over the past couple of seasons. But Newcastle have just had possibly that world-class flourish. A couple of players who've just, the Isaks, the Brunos, Sandro Tonali, difference makers. And I think what we've seen this summer is almost like a slight evening of the scales, a slight balancing it out. But then you also, what Newcastle been victim of, selling a player like Elliot Anderson, Sean Longstaff to a lesser degree, they're now benefiting from Villa's situation in selling Jacob Ramsey. And if there are any Aston Villa fans in watching this video, which may well be, given the game is taking place on Saturday, let us know. What do you think about Jacob Ramsey?
You'll not be the first person to say that, by the way. I've wrote that. I'm not published it, but I've wrote that a couple of times. There's a wasp next to you there.
That would have been funny. Literally touched it. Honestly, I think how cool I was there is it.
Did you know it was there?
It was on my hand. So yes, Jacob Ramsey, what do you think of him? Will he be a good player for Newcastle United? Are you sad he's been sold, or are you getting a good deal for £39 million? But yeah, PSR rears its ugly head again in Aston Villa, almost forced into a sale or reluctantly selling an academy player.
Yeah, that's one thing I would point out on Jacob Ramsey is maybe there's an Elliot Anderson type scenario where Elliot Anderson earned in many ways a lot of rave reviews at Nottingham Forest last year. I do want that sort of a fresh move away from your boyhood club that can actually benefit you. And I've always said with Eddie Howe, as the wasp comes closer to us, with Eddie Howe that he always improves players. So I think 824, a lot of good attributes. I think he's got a lot of room to grow. You're still too cool there.
It's literally on me, you know. This
well, you're safer than that.
Man.
Is it? It's on you?
Yeah, it's there. Right. See, what I do for this channel. Still on, it's like.
Right, should we call it?
We'll call it, right.
Before it stings you.
Before I get stung now. Reed, could you?
Yes. As Dom encounters the wasp as he tries to Sonia now. Whoop. this is good viewing. Is it still there? Right.
Yeah,
anyway.
Right.
Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe for your latest Geordie Journals content. Comment below. Let us know your thoughts as say Jacob Ramsey, Aston Villa fans. If you're watching, let us know your thoughts on the Isak situation, new signings, Aston Villa tomorrow. We'll be back at Villa Park. Maybe not inside Villa Park. New data co-regulations, but we'll come on that at a different time. What's just flew off now?
Joined by Liam Kennedy.
So we'll be back tomorrow, hopefully reacting to a Newcastle United result. I think a point tomorrow I would take.
I would too. Let us know score predictions in the comments below. I'll take any positive result. Yes. Genuinely, given the situation, given the summer, given Villa away, I think you take a point now. But with Newcastle United, go for all three.
I say adversity. It's been a difficult time. Adversity can work in positive ways, and I do hope Newcastle United channel that with all the noise, use it in a positive way, and put in a surprise. I think I would be surprised if Newcastle won tomorrow, and I want to be surprised. Of course I do. So fingers crossed they can do it.
Always full of surprises, Newcastle United. And for all your latest Geordie Journals news updates, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. You can also check out Newcastle World and the Shields Gazette for all of myself and Jordan's work on the transfer fund, Eddie Howe's press conference. The Aston Villa game will be down there, of course, as well tomorrow, as Jordan mentioned. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you at Villa Park in our next video. Cheers.